Are you ready to get your sports banter on? Brian Hemminger, love child of Albert Einstein and Howard Cosell, with a body chiseled by Zeus himself. Brandon Sharples, a man who could beat Mike Tyson in a spelling bee. Together, they form the At Odds Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the At Odds Podcast. It is Thursday, February 8th, 2018, and we have an excellent show in store for you guys tonight. I'm your host, Brian Hemminger, joined tonight, as always, by my co-host, Silky Smooth, Brandon Sharples. Brandon, how you doing tonight, man?
Pretty good, man. Got a great episode for everybody tonight. It's been NBA trades. Everybody knows that's been pretty crazy today. It's some of the things that happened during today's trade deadline is something I've never really seen at the trade deadline before. We'll get into that, and we'll talk about the NCAA signing day, which I thought kind of lost a little bit of luster because of the early signing period in December. So that's a couple things that we can talk about today. Anything new going on with you, Brian? Any new projects? Any new Girl Scout meetings?
No Girl Scout meetings. I've actually been to a few rock concerts.
What'd you go to?
I was so excited about the Girl Scouts meeting, I forgot to talk about. I saw Starset on Saturday. I don't know if you know them that well. They're a good, solid, up-and-coming band based out of Columbus. And then last night, I went and watched Nothing More in Columbus. So it was a good time.
What's Nothing More?
You never heard of Nothing More? They're now, they've been around for a little bit, but they've like really broken into the mainstream in the past with their last two albums. They had the Song of the Year for rock for 2017. It's called "Go to War." If you listen to rock music, you've heard them. I would say their most popular songs are "This Is the Time" and "Go to War." So if you look up "This Is the Time," you've probably heard it, but you just didn't know it was them.
Huh. I probably have to check it out. I'm bad with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll put both of them in some gems. I'll put a song from both of them in some gems tonight. Let you guys check it out. See, we'll let you decide for yourself. But I'm a big fan of both bands. They're, typically most of my favorite bands were stuff that I was a fan of in high school, and guys that just kept putting out albums. Like Shinedown, Seether, Breaking Benjamin, all those guys. But every once in a while, there's some really good bands that burst onto the scene that I still dig. So try to keep me feel young a little bit.
Yeah. I haven't really been to too many concerts, honestly.
Oh, yeah, that's always been a thing for me. Like, I go to a lot. I mean, I always go to Rock on the Range every year, but I don't just go to Rock on the Range. I try to, anytime that there's a show nearby that's interesting that I have the time to go to, I try to go to it. I've probably seen Shinedown play like 12 times. It's way too many times.
Really? Yeah, man. I'd like to go to like a rave concert or something where a lot of EDM music, because I like techno style music. But it's not my favorite. But I really like it. I think
the Starset show.
Yeah, I like. Yeah. Well, I like it all. I like it when you combine it with rock music, like techno with rock and stuff. Like some of the shit that like Rammstein used to do back in the day and stuff like that. I think that's pretty cool, and I think that'd be an awesome show to go see. Or like Marshmello, the DJ. I think he'd be pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, you would have liked the Starset show, because Starset kind of combines like a little techno and rock, and then their opener was a DJ named Grabbits, and basically he just had a giant DJ set and a microphone, and he just sang to his beats that he had pre-recorded that he'd already designed.
Hey, everybody loves that shit.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly like my style for that show. I mean, maybe in a different setting, I would have liked it a little more, but I think it would have been right up your alley if that's like your thing for sure. And like if it was in like a freaking club, that dude would have been off the hook, but it was at a rock show. So it was a little different. So he was getting a mixed response.
Yeah, whatever. People just need to be a little bit more open-minded, and then everybody can enjoy the same show. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's the way I put it is, if you get a bunch of people being negative about something, it just carries to the entire crowd, and it just doesn't allow people to have a good time. But it just because you're at a rock show doesn't mean you can't be open-minded by a little bit different vibe, different sound. And I think if everybody kind of vibes to the same shit, then it kind of becomes more enjoyable to you. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I mean, it just depends. Like, everybody buys tickets to see the headlining act, and some guy in the opener is completely different. It can be weird. Like we went and saw Foo Fighters, and this mariachi band opened for them, and we were just like, "What the fuck is this?"
I don't like mariachi. I think that whole sound sucks. Sorry for my Mexican fans out there. I think mariachi is fucking terrible. And I lived in Arizona for
you gotta open your mind.
5 years.
Expand your resources, Brandon. What are you talking about?
Hey, there's no opening to that shit.
Can ruin the rest of the show.
Yeah, maybe if I got stoned as shit and ate some tacos, I might be in the mood to listen to mariachi. But I tell you what, I've been to multiple parties where they're literally listening to that shit, and it's like teenagers and early 20s, so it's like a big part of the Mexican culture. When I remember when my son got baptized, and my son's mom's half black, half Mexican, and their Mexican side's like their big culture side, and so we're sitting out literally I'm the only white dude there. We're sitting on the front porch, and they're just jamming out to some mariachi shit, like straight up Spanish lyrics and everything, and I'm like sitting there on the porch with a Corona in my hand, like just kind of nodding my head, like, "Yeah, how much longer do I gotta fucking be here?" It was stupid. I swear to God, but yeah, that's the kind of shit you gotta deal with when you start crossing cultures. So, I put up with it, and it is what it is. But yeah, I think that's like the worst music in the world is mariachi.
It always is funny to me. Like Cain Velasquez, when he was the UFC heavyweight champion, he's like the biggest badass in the world. And then he would come out to like goofy ass mariachi music for his walkout entrance for his big fights. And you're just like, what the fuck? Come on, man. I want more intimidating shit than that.
Yeah, dude. When's he gonna fight again? Speaking of him, fucking ever, or is he, got a hangnail or something?
He's always injured. He says he wants to fight at UFC 226, the event where Stipe is gonna fight Cormier. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, he's probably gonna break his back or some bullshit again. Like that guy is never healthy.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Retire already.
He literally got
all the time.
Declined by the athletic commission to get a license when he was trying to fight his last fight. Like they said he had some issue with his spine or some bullshit. I don't know. It was fucked up. So it's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Like that's about the time where, a baseball player is near the end of his career and a trade gets rejected for failing the physical,
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Did you know?
I'm not
optimistic about him. Yeah, I'm never optimistic about that guy or half the UFC. Every time there's a big ass card, I'm always like, gee, I wonder who's gonna fucking drop out because they don't know how to train properly.
Yep, that's already happened with the most recent two pay-per-views. The one that's on Saturday, it was supposed to be Luke Rockhold against Robert Whittaker, the champ. Whittaker gets hurt. So now they're doing Rockhold against Romero. And the next pay-per-view was supposed to be Frankie Edgar against Max Holloway. That's a sick fight. Max Holloway gets injured for the first time in his career, has to pull out of the fight.
Yeah. Dude, so who do you think's gonna win that fight between Cormier and Stipe?
I don't know, man. Like, Stipe's a lot bigger, and Stipe is the better striker. So, I mean, I'm leaning Stipe, but I mean, if Cormier can get that wrestling going and put Stipe on his back, which nobody else has ever been able to do, but maybe Cormier could do it because he was an Olympic wrestler. Then who knows? I mean, it's an exciting thing to think about because Cormier spent the first half of his career fighting as a heavyweight. He basically dropped down because Kane was the champ. He didn't want to fight Kane because he was his teammate.
Yeah.
And now he's the champ, and Stipe's the champ, and they're going to fight, and it's going to be fucking badass. So
yeah, dude.
we'll see what happens.
I think that'd be. I think it'd be a cool fight.
Super fight.
I'd like for Stipe just to fucking just cave him in, just like John Jones did. I don't like DC.
He might.
No, I don't.
He might.
I just don't like him.
Stipe's got power,
He's
man.
corny. He's corny. He's lame. The lame, corny dude. I didn't like how he tried to like go out of his element and be like a good shit talker with John Jones. I'm just like, you just sound like the most scripted douchebag ever. And I just don't like how he's fat.
That's just the way he is,
like
man. That dude is a specimen, but like that dude, he's built like a freaking fire hydrant.
Yeah. He's just not when I think of somebody I want to look up to as a fighter. Just for strictly fighting, you know what I mean?
For fighting, yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's a damn good fighter, too. He just can't beat John Jones. I mean, that's pretty much everybody else.
I'm not ignorant, and I'm not going to say he's overrated. He's not overrated. I mean, he's done everything he needs to do. It's just I love John Jones. I don't give a shit how many fucking pregnant women he hits with his car. From a straight fighting standpoint, which is all I care about. Like I said, my moral compass points in other directions when it comes to sports. I don't, as long as you're not killing anybody, raping or pillaging, anything or molesting kids or something, I don't care what athletes do. I absolutely do not care. They can do as many drugs as they want. I don't give a shit if they're Jay Cutler smoking 20 packs of cigarettes. As long as Jay Cutler comes out, and if Jay Cutler was Tom Brady on cigarettes, I wouldn't care. Or you know what I mean? Or say like you're a cop. If Florida hasn't had a good quarterback in forever since Tim Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
If you give me a quarterback that's been caught snorting coke off a stripper's ass, I'll still love the dude, and I will still have his back 100% of the time. I would be that coach that would just go straight into the hood and just fucking gobble up everybody I can. As far as recruits go, nothing would stop me. I'm telling you that right now. I would be fucking getting investigated for recruiting violations every other week. I would. That's why everybody's like, oh, we don't want Chip Kelly when he was about to go to Florida. I'm like, you fucking goddamn right we do. Are you serious? Yes, we do. I don't care what you have to do to get them to our team, but you get them. You get all these recruits. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care how many secret checks you have to write. I have no problem with any checks being written to any kid. I don't have any problem buying a kid a car to get him to come to a school. I don't have any of that shit. If I was a billionaire, I would be writing the checks to get kids to come to Florida. I would. I don't have any problem with any of that shit. I have no morals when it comes to sports and getting kids to come to play. I'm just telling you guys that on air right now. My moral compass is in personal affairs, like treating people in real life with respect and, doing the right things in real life. But when it comes to my sports, whatever they do in their own life is just different. I don't care. People are going to explain it to me in a different way, and they're going to be like, well, that is their real life. Well, I don't give a shit. Again, winning. Me being able to shit talk Ohio State fans because Florida's finally good again is all I give a shit about. So that whether we look good to the press or whether we play good on the field, I'm going to choose the field, and I'm going to make fun of Ohio State fans because Florida's finally good again. And that's all I care about. Florida has fucked me out of the ability to shit talk. And that's what my sports fandom is for. The only reason I'm a fan of sports is to shit talk people like Ohio State fans. And I have not been able to do it.
The 2018 recruiting standings, it might be a little longer before Florida's on par with Ohio State.
I will tell you what, those are bullshit, for one.
You think they're bullshit?
I don't really care about those. Well, I will tell you, this is why they're bullshit. Bullshit. How do I explain this? Okay, and a lot of the recruiting classes are ranked by how many recruits you have as well, because you get a composite score.
Yeah.
So there's certain
it's
years.
Also based on
there's certain
skill of the recruit.
No, of course. But listen, like, for instance, like the reason that Texas is number 4 right now, they have 27 recruits, which is by far the most.
Yeah.
One more than Georgia and Ohio State, but by far more than a lot of the teams that are in the top 25 recruiting rankings. And that's what's throwing them up, because they only have 1 5-star and 17 4-stars, according to Rivals. And there's other teams behind them that have, 6 5-stars. And like, it's just that they have a smaller recruiting class, like Clemson. Clemson has 6 5-stars, but they're ranked 8. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee they have more impactful players in this draft class, or in this recruiting class, than Texas does. You know what I mean? It's just the way that they composite the points it's a little misleading, and it's a little bit different. I think I hold more weight at the top of the recruiting. Like, say Florida's ranked 18th, but they did get Jacob Copeland, who's the top 5 receiver, and they addressed some serious issues, serious needs. They got every position of need that they needed on offense. They got Emory Jones at quarterback, and he's a 4-star now, but he's a prior 5-star. He's kind of floated back and forth. And they got Andrew Chatfield, who was a linebacker that we stole from Ohio State, who was once a 5-star, and Malik Lingham, who was once a 5-star. I mean, like, they just float, you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm happy with this recruiting class. It may be ranked 18th, but it was ranked way worse. It was like in the 50s and 60s at one point, like not too, distant past. And once Dan Mullen got a chance,
jumped it.
Well, Copeland's the one that we'll talk about later because of his mother. But Copeland's one of the better receivers in the entire country. And they got Emory Jones too, who was the quarterback they really needed. He's a dual threat guy, really tough. And Copeland, like some like Rivals has him ranked as the 24th best receiver, but ESPN has him at like 6. You know what I mean? It's like, it just depends on what recruiting, outlet is ranking the people. Like, I remember when Calvin Taylor, who was Fred Taylor's son, he was the number 1 overall ESPN recruit, period, and the number 1 running back. And we got him, but then like Rivals had him as like the number 4 running back. Just everybody has their own ranking system and everything. So, but I guess the way it's skewed is that you don't know how these kids are going to perform on the field. You know what I mean? You just never know, because I remember
Urban that didn't pan out.
Urban's last recruiting class with Florida, his last full recruiting class, was the best recruiting class ever for the composite score. They had more 5-star and combined 5-star and 4-star recruits in one big recruiting class than any other team ever. And that I think was surpassed maybe 2 years after by USC. I think some have Florida's it's like 2010 draft class number 1, and some have USC's like 2011 draft class number 1, but they're all up there. And the class did not produce anybody of note, really. Like, we didn't even come close to winning another BCS championship or go to the playoffs, for that matter. And obviously we weren't going to go to the playoffs with that class, but we didn't have any BCS titles with that class. We had it was the class that had like Driscoll in it and stuff like that, Jelani Jenkins and all those guys. And it just didn't pan out. So and you see a lot of like, Ohio State's been having a lot of number 1 classes, and Tennessee had a bunch of top 3 classes that obviously have not panned out for them. And the only teams you really see panning out with their recruiting classes recently is Bama and Clemson. A lot of these other teams that you continuously see, like USC and Tennessee and Georgia, up until now, they haven't really done anything with these recruiting classes. And, quite frankly, people are a little bit surprised that Florida hasn't been as good lately. But let's look at their draft classes, our recruiting classes. They have not recruited well. And Jim McElwain was a terrible recruiter. He's not a player's coach. He's just a douchebag. And he didn't recruit well. And then we got Dan Mullen coming in, and he had very, very limited time, and he already made a huge impact. So I can't look what he did with the players at Mississippi State in those shitty draft classes. I'm just going to call them draft classes. It's easier for me to say draft class. Shitty draft class, and he still produced 8-win seasons, and he still had him at number 1 in the country at one point when they had Dak Prescott. And dude, I think Dan Mullen's going to bring Florida back. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Florida fan, but I think, give him 3 years, and we're definitely going to be right there neck and neck with everybody else in the SEC again.
We'll see. I mean, I'm rooting for that because a good Florida is Florida being competitive with the rest of the country and being a national power is probably in our best interest, just because I'm so sick of Alabama being the top. I want somebody else to start dethroning them more consistently. But I will say this. I think, Ohio State has always had some good recruiting classes, but I think this year might be one of the best they've ever had. And it's not just that they had a lot of guys, too. I mean, the national rankings per position is disgusting for the Buckeyes this year. I think, let's see, I'm only going to list a guy's name if he was top 3 in the country at his position, okay? So they got Tyreek Johnson, the second best safety in the country, Tommy Toglai, the third best defensive tackle, Matthew Jones, the best center, Antoine Jackson Sr., the best defensive tackle, Nicholas Petit-Frere, the best offensive tackle, Taron Vincent, another first-ranked defensive tackle. I don't know how that's possible. 2 guys ranked 1 at defensive tackle. Okay.
Well, there's probably nose tackle, and then there's other, you know what I mean?
Okay.
There's interior lineman.
And then Jalen Gill, the second best all-purpose back, Jeremy Ruckert, the second best tight end, Tereja Mitchell, the second best inside linebacker, and Brian Sneed, the third best running back. So I don't know. That's just fucking nasty. And those are just the cream of the crop. I mean, I'm sure they got plenty of other really good depth guys like ranked fourth.
I got a question for these recruits, and hopefully one of them hears this at some point. Why do you go to Ohio State? I don't understand. What do you mean? Why are you going? Why are they going to Ohio State?
NFL is littered with Ohio State players. Like, NFL is just overloaded with Ohio State players right now. It's true. Like, they consistently perform at the national level in college, and then they get drafted. Like, I think right now,
outside of Michael Thomas, they had hold on.
Than there have ever been.
Okay, first of all, outside of Ezekiel Elliott, all their running backs are been bust city shit. Even Carlos Hyde's been okay. Zeke's the bomb. I get it, but guess what? He doesn't even. He's an outlier at Ohio State. I've never seen a running back run like him before. For one, so I've always admired him as a player. He's awesome. Their quarterbacks are trash in the NFL. None of them are good ever. I've never heard of a good Ohio State quarterback in the NFL. Receivers, Michael Thomas is pretty good. Outside of Michael Thomas, who's good? None. They don't have any.
What are you talking about? Current?
Who's in the NFL right now? Current, yes.
All right, let's see.
Who is current in the NFL?
Ted Ginn is, granted he's not the greatest, but Ted Ginn has always been good. But in the NFL, Ohio State currently has 8 receivers. Noah Brown, Ted Ginn Jr., Jalen Marshall, Braxton Miller, Davier Posey, Terrell Pryor, Curtis Samuel, Michael Thomas, and Devin Smith.
Yeah, man.
That's 8 receivers. That's a shit ton. And they have a long history of successful receivers in the NFL.
Who? Carter?
Of course, Chris Carter, but then, David Boston, Ted Ginn, Joey Galloway.
David Boston, he was whack. Joey Galloway, whack.
Of all time. Not of all time, but at the moment, at his peak, he was an absolute monster. And then his ankles got torn. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's on roids. He was on roids.
Yeah, of course
his
he was on roids.
Not big enough to support. David Boston.
Players can do whatever they want to get good, but if they were from Ohio State, he's on roids. He sucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That has nothing to do with him being on roids. I'm talking about the fact that he had one good year in 2001. He had back-to-back decent years. So he had 2 years in the league where he was decent receiver. Two years and he had one where he was pretty fucking good. In 2001, he had almost 1,600 yards, about 100 yards a game. So he had one good year. That does not make you anything exciting. I mean, how many receivers have we seen in the league come in and out, have one good season? A lot. He's nothing.
There's plenty more where that came from, though. Michael Jenkins, Antonio Holmes.
I'll give you Antonio Holmes as a pretty decent.
Okay.
Michael Jenkins.
Didn't he win a Super Bowl? Michael Jenkins had a pretty good run in the NFL. Nothing crazy.
I just think Ohio State players are just so extraordinarily overrated. Every time I watch them, I'm just so unimpressed. Every time I watch Ohio State play, I see them moving the ball. I'm just like, how are you moving the ball? Like, when I watch JT Barrett run that offense, it's just spread out. And it's like, everybody knows he's running the ball. And he looks like he's running about 4 miles an hour. He's just so whack. And it's just so unappealing to watch. I'm just saying. I can't stand Ohio State. I can't even talk about this right now. It's just the fucking wackest school ever. Just watching them play. Like, they're just running Florida's offense in Ohio with slower people. It was a lot more exciting when they were running that shit in Florida. They got lucky on a national championship they never even should have been to. And then, I love these Ohio State fans. They're like, they should never even have been there. Bama won it, yeah, and they deserved to win it, but they never even should have been there to begin with. I'm like, yeah, what about when you jumped TCU, who was ranked 3rd the week before, won by 57, and then they somehow dropped out of the top 4, and you went on top of them, and you snuck in there and played the greatest game of your entire lives and beat far superior at Bama team that would have beat you 9 out of 10 times, and then you win a national championship. And I had to watch that and puke in my mouth about 400 times during that game. But yeah, you never should have been there, but now it's a problem because you got skipped over this year by Bama. It's a bunch of bullshit. And last year you skipped over Penn State and got smoked 31-0. That's what I got. I just go by what I see. Hemi, and I just don't see I don't see the production.
Incredible bias.
It's incredible fact. Everybody gives Ohio State this credit that I just don't believe you deserve. I think you've been hoisted up in the poll era because before you won that championship over Miami, again, a miracle. That Miami team was one of the best teams ever created. I cannot believe you guys won. I guess props to you for winning on that one, but that pass interference flag was horseshit. But anyway, prior to that, you didn't win a championship since the 70s. What was it, 75 or 76, somewhere around there?
Mm-hmm.
And if you just look at the Big Ten as a whole, everybody's always trying to hype this Big Ten, and they always say it comes in cycles. The Big Ten was great in this time, and then it became the SEC. No, the Big Ten was never great, ever, because you won your national championship in the 70s, and then nobody won a national championship for the Big Ten until you guys won it.
Yeah.
Or no, you had a half a championship out of Michigan in 97, and then you didn't win another one until 2002 with you guys. And then you had a couple close calls with Ohio State getting smashed by Florida and LSU, and then you finally won one in 14. But as a whole league, only Penn State and Nebraska won one in between them, but they were in the Big 12 with Nebraska, and Penn State was independent when they won theirs. So the Big Ten has so many championships in the 70s and prior that I don't understand where they got hyped up in polls all the time because the Midwest propped up football forever because that's where the networks were. We're like right there in New York and Chicago, and you know what I mean? It was just like everybody thought of football back then in the 70s and 80s and 60s and all that shit. They thought of it as like Notre Dame, and you know Notre Dame from like the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? They all right there. There was like a Midwestern heart in the hearts of the Midwestern was football, and they polled everybody, and these polls were skewed towards whatever region they were in. It's way different now. You get people voting in the Pacific, you know, that are still voting for teams like Alabama. Back in the day, they didn't do that. That's why Alabama claims all these national championships because, you know, they're 1-loss teams and 2-loss teams, and they're polling themselves from the South. Well, I think a lot of these poll wins that Ohio State had back in the day or top 10 in the polls are just because they're basically handed that shit. So I always see all these records.
I mean, that was
they didn't go undefeated.
You just sound extremely bitter right now, is what you sound.
No, you sound like you don't want to face facts that the Big Ten has been a propped up conference forever because that's where the money came from back in the day.
You just go back to the 90s when they didn't win all those any national championships. I mean, basically, Ohio State was the best team every one of those years, and then they would lose to Michigan at the end of the year because John Cooper was a piece of shit. Like, he would always
recruit they lost to
insane
Michigan
teams.
State.
Yeah. No, it was usually Michigan. It was almost always Michigan.
Yeah, but I think in 98, you guys are number.
He basically got fired because he couldn't beat Michigan. Like, they would pretty much enter the Michigan game as like a top 5 team, and then they would lose it, and then they would go win their bowl game. And that's pretty much rinse, repeat every year in the 90s. You know, it wasn't until Trussell came in that, you know, things started turning around. He didn't always have the most talented teams, but I mean, he could beat Michigan. And that's when Ohio State started, you know, being a national threat again. But when they couldn't beat Michigan, then, you know, the Big Ten has always been kind of propped up by Ohio State. They've always, you know, Michigan and Ohio State have been the two teams that have kind of been there the longest, with the longest rivalry, the best rivalry, the longest histories. So, you know, they usually have been able to have the best teams. I mean, they're the teams, the schools that are known the best. They have the best history of coaches.
According to who? Like, according to who? I like it's just they're just personalities. This actually goes back to my article that I read that I wrote where I was talking about like the old timers, like who Bo Schembechler, like who the fuck did he beat like throughout his life? Yeah, according to who? Like you guys, Ohio State, like it was this rivalry that he like propped his name up. Like he didn't win anything ever. He never won anything. He just won 8 games, 9 games, 10 games. You know what I mean? Like it was just a rivalry with him and Woody. You know what I mean? And then Woody just, you know, he was a product of his time where he can run that bullshit offense and just slam it down.
Oh yeah, 3 yards of cloud of dust.
Yeah, so I'm not saying anything about Woody. I'm not going to go blasphemy and say Woody wasn't a good coach because I didn't live back then to know. But I know that he has the accolades to back up being a legendary coach. But Bo Schembechler did not have anything that I could look that I've ever looked on him. And I'm like, why is he such a legendary coach? That's just me.
I would say the reason he's legendary
is
from 1969 to 1989, like 20 years. They finished in the top 10 nationally 16 times, and they won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Michigan won 12 Big Ten championships. So more than half the time he was coach, they were the champs. They didn't win any national championships, but he was a very successful coach. Like, he brought Michigan back to prominence. Like, Woody Hayes used to beat the shit out of Michigan consistently, and he turned it into a game again. Yeah. That's what he became known for, okay?
I can get you. I can get you there. I mean,
and he played under Woody, so that even added more to the rivalry. Like, he was a coach.
I know that. I know that. I just think that coaches, unlike players, I think players can still be held by their stat lines and their individual achievements, but coaches have to be judged by the amount of championships that they win. And when I hear talk about Bo Schembechler being one of the best coaches of all time, and I'm like, where's his championship? I mean, he doesn't even have one. He doesn't even have one championship. And a pretty weak conference, honestly. The Big Ten, outside of Michigan and Ohio State, and occasionally Penn State, and maybe 1 year here and 1 year there, Wisconsin. You know what I mean? But I don't think he ever had to deal with a really strong Wisconsin team, did he? I'm not quite sure what it was back in the 70s. Wisconsin, but
I'm not privy to like the history of how good everybody else was in that era, you know. But I mean, he had a run from, let's see, 1970 until 75, where he never lost more than one game a season. I mean, in 73, he didn't lose, but he didn't win the national championship. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe they didn't play good enough teams, but.
Let's look it up for our viewers. Let's see what happened. Notre Dame won it.
There we are.
Ohio State got second.
They did.
How did he not lose?
Yeah, there were a bunch of
undefeated
teams that year.
So how does Michigan go undefeated and not play Ohio State? They didn't play Ohio State the whole time.
They didn't play Ohio State that year?
Yeah, I don't get it.
I don't know. I was just looking up like some statistics and stuff. So let's see. Oklahoma was undefeated that year. Ohio State was undefeated. Michigan was undefeated. Miami was undefeated. Jesus. I guess nobody played each other.
That's what I'm saying.
Notre Dame and Penn State were both undefeated.
I think USC was that monster that year too. So I mean, yeah, it's just I don't know, man. I feel like I don't like the old timers. I just don't. I'm just not a big old time fan. I don't like that whole run it down your gut for 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I don't like that kind of shit. I find that was what this game has evolved from. And I don't really give a shit about anything that happened before 1990. I really don't. I really don't. I just think it's all useless information. It's just like kind of like, yeah, cool. You have 5 national championships in 1940s and 50s. Congratulations. The Army tore shit up back then. You know what I mean? The 40s belonged to Army. It's just like, it doesn't even register with me, I guess. I don't know. I really don't care. Like, I don't care who won the Heisman in 1945. You know what I mean? Like, any of that shit. It doesn't impress me, because if you ever, like, go look at, I'll even talk about Spurrier. Steve Spurrier was a Heisman winner. Go look at that dude's stat line. All our listeners, I want you to right now get on your phones, and unless you're listening to us on a phone, and I want you to look up Steve Spurrier's stat line during his Heisman campaign. It's pathetic, and he won. And I just see that all the time. Like, who was a Notre Dame quarterback? Was it Paul Hornig that won it with a horrible stat line? They were like 3-9 that year. Their record, it was just, yeah. Anyways, Spurrier threw for 2,012 yards and 16 touchdowns. The year that he won it. That was his stat line.
You got to remember though, that was 65. Nobody was even passing the ball yet. Like, he was setting records doing that.
So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's ridiculous. To even compare eras, like, I don't know. I don't even think that's setting records. That's not setting anything. He
back then it was.
Look it up.
He broke every Florida and conference records for passing and total offense.
Yeah, I'm talking about national records. He did not break any national records ever.
He broke every Florida record and conference record.
Oh, give me a break. It's 1965. What do you know? I mean, who's going to throw the damn ball? it's just one of those things where, like, I'm even talking about my own Florida Gator right here. I just
And he led he led.
I'm reading
fourth quarter comeback wins.
How are you going to lead that when you're not throwing the ball? You're basically just handing the ball off, and that's your fourth quarter comeback win. I honestly just came out of nowhere. The only reason I'm even kind of stuttering on this is because I haven't taken any time to research half of this shit. This is just my personal opinion.
Did you see how he won the Heisman Trophy? What won it?
Yeah, he found out. Oh, no. What
he did?
Go ahead.
Well, his team, the game was tied, and they were in the 2-minute drill, and at the end of the game, he waved off the fucking place kicker and fucking kicked a 40-yard field goal to win 30-27.
That's pretty
cool.
That's a
fucking badass. Come on.
No, it is, dude. I love Steve Spurrier. But what I was going to say is that he found out, like, he found out through the...
But he, like, was a trendsetter. Like,
that's fine.
Like, he helped create the passing game. So, of course, his stats aren't going to be insane. Like, people didn't even know how to set up proper passing offenses yet. It was a part of the game that was still in development.
Dude, when the hell did they invent the forward pass? A long time before that. People, this is what I don't understand, dude. Just because coaches were not innovative enough to create a passing game. Like, that's the thing I'm talking about. Like, coaches like Woody Hayes and Ben Bochamp back in
high school?
Yeah.
We're in the year 2004, and we still weren't passing the ball. Back then,
a lot of teams don't pass the ball.
How physical you could be. And
no, it's not back then. It's still like that. In high school, you still run the wing tee because the wing tee is a misdirection offense. Eastwood almost won a state title this year off the wing tee. I went and watched that game too. But that's high school. This is different. Nobody runs a wing tee in freaking college. You know what I mean? So you got teams like Army running like the wishbone and stuff, which is kind of like a version of it, I guess. But
I think the Navy runs full option.
Yeah, well, that's hard as hell to defend, but that's just such a terrible offense to have if you're getting your ass whooped. You know what I mean? So I find it, like, humorous to think about these coaches. Like, I find the coaches that were innovative and created a passing game and took that by storm. Those are the coaches that need to be addressed as the top coaches in the history of the sport, not people like Woody Hayes who just freaking rode his recruiting tailbacks back to back all the way down until he freaking retired. 3 yards,
that's why I have so
4
much
yards
respect for Paul Brown, the original Browns coach.
Yeah,
like that dude.
Hey, he was hired. Hey, on this day today, he was hired for to coach the Cleveland expansion team in '45. So, and they later named it after him. But
to make that team better than everybody else, like. He invented the radio in the quarterback's helmet.
See,
he did all kinds of shit. Like they were like he like a lot of shit he did would piss off the league. Like he was like the Belichick of his time.
Yeah, I just don't like the old timers. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm a new school kind of guy. That includes baseball, basketball, football, anything like that. I don't have any. It's not that I don't have respect. That's not even close to the term. I have all the respect in the world for those old guys. They were getting their asses whooped back then. You know, less safety and everything, and people were meaner back then, and so I have all the respect in the world for the players back then. But it's a different era, and it's harder to win now. And you got you're throwing the ball all over the damn place. You have innovative coaches. You have coaches that are PhDs. You literally do. And you have coaches that are just mathematicians out there. And then you got, the old school coaches, they're just grit. They're just grit, and they just slam the ball down people's throats. And I just don't think that takes much. It didn't take much. And all it took was, somebody to give you a chance to get out on the field, and everybody's just running the same shit all the time. It's just, back then it was like, can you get the right players? Or right now, I think these recruiting classes we're seeing is, whoever has the number one recruiting class, I don't see that. you can have a strategic advantage even with the 15th recruiting class. Like, look at what Baylor was able to do under Art Briles, and Texas A&M, came up with Kevin Sumlin for a while there, and what Florida did when they had Spurrier running the fun and gun, and they weren't very good in the 80s and the 70s. Florida wasn't. They were really shitty actually, and and in the 90s they were one of the staple program. They won it in 96. They should have won it in 95, and they almost won it again in 97, and then they're one of the top 5 ranked teams throughout the mid to late 90s, and they brought that into the 2000s. And so it was the innovative offenses that did that, and I respect those kind of eras. And it's just, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna say I just don't have it for the old timers, man. You can have your era, but don't throw them down my throat like they're the best. They're going to be on the top 10 list of all-time greats, in my opinion.
Oh, that's fine. So, I don't think that was ever part of our debate. Well, that was kind of where I was going with.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Get your point.
No, that was my point. I mean, this kind of went longer than I thought it would. I wasn't really able to really. I don't know. I didn't get to look at anything I wanted to speak about or anything. I just started going off the wall on this. So. Yeah. I did, dude. I get passionate about this shit, but I don't know. But see, this is the problem with doing that on the show, is because you're going to start asking me a bunch of questions and you're going to debate me, and I need to be more prepared for this. So next time I can destroy your ass.
You just got to be careful about what you're claiming. Is all I'm. Because for me,
I'm not. Hold on. I haven't claimed anything. I haven't claimed anything false. It's just, it's instead of making my opinions fact-based like I normally do, now they just become my opinions, and they appear to be biased. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to this show, and I'm going to fact-check everything I fucking say, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to hound your ass next show.
Hey, I didn't have anything specific like with fact stuff that I was backing up. I mean, I would look up things if I thought you were saying something completely egregious, but what I wanted to get back to, though, was about recruits. I mean, yeah, you can go out and recruit an insane team, but you still have to coach them. Like, there's a lot of these guys that are the big man on campus at their high school, but then they get to college and everybody's as fast and as strong as them. Like, it all comes down to being coached and actually applying yourself and being, having the work ethic to match your athletic gifts. So, there's been so many guys that were recruited as like the top guy, and then they fucking flamed out. So,
of course, actually, so I was just reading this article. It's not really an article; it's more of a list, and it was a list of every Florida 5-star. Because they haven't been doing I think people think they did 5-star like ratings and shit like back in the 80s. They haven't done this for that long, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a list of every 5-star that's ever gone to Florida. And I would honestly say 25% of them straight up bust. Like they didn't do anything. They either transferred out of Florida and they were just trash. And then I would say 50% of them were either productive or really productive. And then another 25%, maybe even a little less, maybe 20% of them were superstars that ended up getting drafted in, the top 1 or 2 rounds in the NFL drafts. But that means like 75 to 80% of them were just either okay players or busts. And that's just a true statement on that. So I think that the 5-star, there's a lot of 5-star players. Like look at Jacob Eason from Georgia. He's one of the top quarterbacks in the entire recruiting class, and he was like highly coveted. And he's transferring to Washington. He's out at Georgia. Do you know what's crazy? So the highest composite player in the history of Rivals, which was the original like ranking system, this is the highest ranked player ever. His name is Brock Berlin, and I don't know if you guys remember him, but he's a QB, and he originally went to Florida, and he flamed out in Florida and ended up transferring to U. He was Miami's quarterback for a little while. And I think he was in the league for maybe a couple years, but yeah, he was the highest rated quarterback ever, and he flamed out at Florida. I don't even know if he started any games. He might have, but he was shit. Yeah. So it's not always how, you're not always going to get everything out of these kids that you think you're going to get. I mean, we had the highest rated not just quarterback, he was the highest rated player in the history of recruiting. And he didn't even stay. And he wasn't even in the Heisman conversation. And you think you're going to get that when you're getting the highest rated player of all time,
Mm-hmm.
So he's like beyond the perfect example of somebody that, why you don't ever put so much stock into a player until you watch him on film playing at that level, I kind of think the same thing with the Michigans, like that Rashawn Gary. He was ridiculously hyped coming into college the last couple of years, and this year he finally started to play a little good, a little decent. And was he like an all Big Ten at defensive end? Do you remember him?
I think
Rashawn Gary. He's from Jersey.
Yeah,
but
the guy for me that always comes to mind is Ohio State quarterback Justin Zwick. I think he was the number one quarterback when he was recruited, like nationally, and it was a huge deal.
He went to Ignatius, right?
Yeah, I think he was from Massillon area, and he came in thinking that Ohio State's just coming off the national championship run. It's his time. The Buckeyes were expected to contend for the national championship again, and you know what? He just sucked. And Troy Smith took his job, and then Troy Smith started for 3 straight years and ended up beating Michigan every year, and it was crazy. And Zwick barely played until he graduated. The only thing he ever got to do was go play in the Senior Bowl. Like he never did anything.
Troy Smith came from Glenville, right? He came from
same school as Ted Ginn, I think. Yeah,
Glenville. He was super tough. He either went to Glenville or Canton McKinley. Who was the stud that went to Canton McKinley? I'll have to. There was a.
I'm almost certain it was Glenville for Smith.
Yeah, I think it was too. But Glenville was cool. Glenville was sweet. They had Ginn's dad was their coach.
Yep.
And he was also like a big in the track and everything. And he had that little bus he had his own like big bus, and he would take like a bunch of great Ohio players to like different camps and stuff. Yeah, I remember that dude. He was pretty good.
Mike Doss was Canton McKinley.
Was he? Mike Doss. There's a couple other people. Canton McKinley was awesome in the late 90s, like 97, 98. They had some nationally ranked teams. I think a lot of people like around the country don't really understand how tough Ohio high school football used to be. I mean, it's still pretty good now, but remember when Herb Street brought that classic there to Ohio, the Herb Street Classic, and he would bring teams from like Cali and Florida, and these teams were all ranked like top 10 perennial national powers, and they would come to Ohio, and even if they would win, they would, it'd be like a 25-27 game. Like, that's when they started giving Ohio more recognition, like teams like St. X and Elder and Moeller and Ignatius and Coleraine and all those teams started getting more national recognition after they're bringing like Long Beach Poly out, and St. Thomas Aquinas from Florida was coming up and losing. And yeah, it was cool. I actually went to that game when Coleraine beat St. Thomas Aquinas, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, dude, high school football in Ohio is no joke. I think it's pretty tough. It's smash mouth football, but you You got teams like Cole Raines running the triple option, but then you got teams that spread it out like Moeller, and it's pretty cool. You're gonna get a little bit of everything in Ohio, I think. So
yeah, what I find interesting is the Buckeyes class is so good this year, but they don't have a lot of Ohio players. Let's see, out of the 26 players on their class, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 are from Ohio.
Well, honestly, like every time Ohio State would get like a big time like Ohio recruit, I never really put too much stock in it. Not just because it's Ohio State, but because I've noticed that Ohio's high school football is tough, and on a national scene, they've had some games where they beat some top national teams, but they don't really have any big time players when they come out of Ohio. As sad as that sounds, like. Everybody's going to be like, oh, bullshit, I can name such and such. But, yeah, think about how many high school players come out a year, and you're naming, like, 10 for the whole your whole life. You know what I mean? Like, you can name 10 from one district in Texas. You know what I mean? So it's like it's different. You know, how high school football is more of a team sport. You got a bunch of Midwest kids playing hard-nosed football, but they don't translate well to that speed game in college. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it makes plenty of sense. I mean, there are specific guys, obviously, you know, like Charles Woodson and shit, but...
Oh, that's what I'm saying. You can name them. Yeah. It's just you're not going to get a big bundle of them like you would out of Florida and Georgia and Texas and Cali. And I know those are bigger states.
Florida, Texas were like the primary targets for Urban Meyer this year. They recruited literally from everywhere, though. Like Virginia, let's see, Pennsylvania, California, Texas, Missouri, New Jersey, Virginia, New York.
Tell you what, man, Georgia's coming up as a high school.
Idaho.
Idaho.
Fucking Idaho.
I like Trevor Lawrence. So I'm a big QB guy, and there's 2 QBs in this freaking recruiting class that I'm like in love with, like from a strictly sports standpoint, before anybody becomes stupid. But Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, who obviously are like the top 2 quarterbacks, but I like them for different reasons. I think Justin Fields could honestly take the starting job at Georgia next year as a true freshman. He's that good. He's so talented. I watched the Rivals. They had like the summer thing that they do, and they have the Nike Elite 11 that they do. And Justin Fields, man, you get to watch it online, and he looks so crisp. All his throws are just amazing. The dude's shifty. He can run all over the place. He's like kind of like Vic, but like he's more accurate and a little bit slower, obviously, but he's still super mobile. And so he's like slower than Vic, but he has a better arm than Vic. So he's kind of like shifted a little bit, you know what I mean? And but the dude's a monster. He's out of Georgia and super talented. And Trevor Lawrence is out of Georgia too, and he's going to Clemson. He's your straight up stay in the pocket, tall as hell. He's like a tall 6'5", 210-pound skinny guy. He has sunshine hair from like Remember the Titans, so he's got that real long hair, blonde hair. That dude slings the ball. He's got a cannon for an arm, and just even on the run, the dude just throwing darts, and he's a big player you need to watch out for. So Trevor Lawrence, and I know they got Kelly Bryant at Clemson, so I'm not sure what they're going to do there because Kelly Bryant, he's a freshman this year, right? So he's your typical mobile quarterback. I don't think he's getting drafted early out of college either. So Trevor Lawrence is going to have to beat out Kelly Bryant if he wants to get some playing time, and I think he can do it. But if you don't, come on down to Florida, buddy. We can use a nice pocket passer. So, but yeah, I really like that, and I like those 2 players the best out of the draft class. I'm a QB guy, so I like that.
Quarterback was the one weakness in Ohio State's draft class or recruiting class, but I mean, I don't think it was that big of a deal because they already had 3 quarterbacks on the roster, and 2 of them are really fucking good. That Dwayne Haskins.
Haskins is good.
Yeah, and Burrow is good too.
You got Tate Martell, who's really good too. He's like a little Johnny Manziel out there.
Mm-hmm.
From
that poor guy's third on the depth chart too.
I'm huge on Joe Burrow. I thought that
he's going to be a monster.
And that sucks. I hope Joe Burrow actually beats him out. Joe Burrow is so good. He is
They're
so
both
good.
really
I actually
good.
watched him on
Ohio
TV.
State's
He went to
offense is going to be so
Athens.
much better next year without JT Barrett.
Oh yeah, you know how I feel about Barrett. Barrett's garbage.
Yeah.
But dude,
I'm just
honestly,
praying that Urban Meyer doesn't include like a QB run for 4 yards play like every other play like he did with Barrett.
You know what? Haskins is actually fast. I don't know why people think Barrett was a good runner. Barrett was a shitty runner. He had mile-wide lanes. He's a terrible runner.
He's
a terrible runner. He's not fast. He's not shifty. The dude was running through like train-wide holes that your awesome offensive line was making for him. Your offensive line was, from a Buckeye hater, your offensive and defensive lines are damn impressive. There's nothing that anybody can take away from that. Like, not me or any other hater of Ohio State. Your lines are awesome. And he was running through, as wide as my living room, this dude was having holes. And it's like ridiculous. Like, anybody can run through that. But if you get somebody like Haskins who can run faster, I'm sure, because I saw it. Well, even Burrows can run. Joe Burrow can run. And Tate Martell, those guys, they're going to make more like Barrett would just run through these holes and just get smashed. Where like Haskins and Burrow, and probably not so much as Burrow, but like Martell, they're going to be shifty enough to even make extra yardage out of these holes. So you are going to be better. I mean, firsthand from me watching, I think Ohio State will be better next year than this year. So yeah, I'll probably have to watch you guys win another 10 or 11 games minimum. But
and then choke in some random game where they shouldn't.
Yeah, and I'll enjoy that too.
Not win at all. That's probably what's going to happen. You're not used to it.
You are going to be tough. I mean, Ohio State will be tough next year. And, there's nothing much I can say about that, but I don't like Georgia being tough. That sucks because we got to play them every year. And
coming off the national finals with the best recruiting class, they're going to be a problem for a long time, I think.
Their recruiting class is really, really good. Like, really good. One of the best I've ever seen. That sucks, too, because it seems like Kirby Smart knows what he's doing, so he's actually putting it together. And Florida's got a lot of work to do, man. I'm not too excited about that, so I don't know. Hey, let's get into this NBA draft, our NBA trade deadline.
It's been a fucking hour.
Who cares? Our show. We don't even have any callers in right now, so they're probably acting like people are just so fucking stupid. Just start calling in. If you're listening, just give us a call. Like, honestly, we're here to talk to you guys. That's what we're supposed to be doing. I don't know where the calls dropped off, but I'd like to get some more callers on here. Maybe we look into the different platform because of the way our audio's been looking at or sounding in live. But
I haven't heard anything about the audio being bad, so we'll see.
Blaine said we were choppy tonight again.
Again?
So yeah. So I just don't understand it. We
we're
sound
not
fine.
choppy when I download it. It just
and we're not choppy. Yeah, we're not choppy right now. Like when I Nope. Our mics are good. Our headphones are good.
Unless we just want to stop doing it live, which I don't want to do. I like having a chat room. I like having callers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. So no, I don't want to do that for sure. But yeah, let's get into this trade deadline. Everybody's talking about the Cavs and how they basically imploded their team and rebuilt an entire team in the middle of the season. Which is this is what I was talking about, an hour ago when we first started this show. That what I haven't seen. Well, see, what I haven't seen before is I haven't seen a team do 3 deals like that. You know what I mean? They did 3 small deals that like added up to a mega.
2 of them weren't small. I mean, the Wade one was small.
They're small,
but the other 2 were big.
Small in the eyes. No, this is what I'm saying. They made that. I'm not even counting the Wade deal. I mean, I don't even know what the hell that was about. But I'm talking. They're small deals, as in George Hill and Rodney Hood are not like anybody that anybody's going to think of as a mega deal. But when you add them all together, and Larry Nance Jr. and you add them all together, it was a major difference for this team. Where in the past, I've never really seen a team do that at trade deadline who was like so close to they're so close to like going back to the finals. You know what I mean? Usually they're trying to make like a mega deal, like they could have got DeAndre Jordan, or you know what I mean? They would have went for like a big guy like Tyreek Evans or something like that. But instead, they found the pieces that they need, and I think the Cavs got way better. They got younger. They got some length. They got
younger is the biggest. They got way better defensive.
Yeah, and they got better defensively. They got length. What I said about the length, and they can guard, and they got Hood and taller. George Hill are taller, and they're an improvement at the three. They can shoot the three better than the guys that just left. And Larry Nance is a nice player. He's a nice player. He just he was just hiding on the depth chart.
He's an extra forward that they need.
Yeah.
Right now, all they got playing forward is like Tristan Thompson, and when he's healthy, Kevin Love, but he's out for a little bit. So Nance is going to slot right in.
He's good, and he was very productive on a per. Yeah, well, he was very good on a per minute basis. In LA, like he's kind of stuck there, you know, because the most productive players on the Lakers, like Randall and stuff, he was like they were the most productive players on the team, so he was kind of stuck there. Like he for his per minute, how do you even calculate this? On a per minute basis, he's definitely one of the more productive people on the Lakers. So a stat line that people, if they're just going to go look at Larry Nance's stat line, they're going to be like, he's all right. But you got to look at a per minute basis, and from a per minute production, he's right up there on the Lakers team. So him, Brandon Ingram, and Julius Randle all kind of sharing some time, and Kuzma and all those guys. And so yeah, he was a good player. So I think the Cavs definitely got better. I think that they're not anywhere near what they need to be Golden State. I think that's just a lost cause. They did what they needed to do to get better in the East, and I think that they probably are as good as Boston. But I think that what did I gotta say? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. What I find most interesting is, do you remember that meeting that people were talking about from like a couple weeks ago where everybody ganged up on Kevin Love? Like that you heard about?
Yeah.
All the guys that were the antagonists in that meeting that were shit-talking Love, they're all gone.
All of them.
Rose,
Wade,
Thomas. They were the ones, apparently, that called out Love in that meeting, and they're all gone.
Wade is a shell of himself. He was just, weighing the team down. Like Derrick Rose was a head case as much as he was injured.
And Isaiah Thomas was not very good. I mean, he wasn't shooting well, he wasn't defending for shit, and he just was running his mouth. So fuck that guy.
Yeah, he was a cancer to that team, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that they celebrated that he's gone.
Yeah, so they got rid of all the right pieces. Derrick Rose is like, I forgot he was even on the fucking team. I'm not even kidding. Like, I thought that they waived him already because he's always having some sort of mental. He's like the most mentally weak player I've ever seen in my entire life. From any sport, Derrick Rose is the most soft, mentally broken player I've ever seen in professional sports. I'm not even like exaggerating. Do you remember when he missed like another additional season just to get his knee healthy? Remember that? Like he missed way more time than he even had to. He was already cleared, but he wanted to give himself an extra season. It's like, bro, it didn't work because you were trash when you came back, and you were even worse for Cleveland and worse for the Knicks. So yeah, he had that one season where he stole the MVP from LeBron. And then other than that, he was as mentally weak as you could possibly get. And in this season, everybody thought he was injured, but dude, not from what I was reading. I read that he just had some mental breakdown and he just needed some time away from the team and all this other shit. And it was just, they needed to let his ass go. they could replace him literally with anybody. Then it would have been an upgrade, which is crazy to think about having an MVP like that on your team, and he was just a lost space. You know what I mean? Like him and Wade. Like I kept putting Wade in, thinking that man, he's cheap as shit on DraftKings. Like he's bound to blow up. You know, I'm getting him for 4,800, 5,000, and I'm hoping I can get at least 30 out of him. And
36 years old. Like his knees were bad like 4 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they got better. They got better. They could definitely win the East because the East is so terrible, but they're not good enough to be a lock in the East, and they're not good enough to win against anybody that comes out of the West.
Yeah, they'll be at least competitive again in the East, which I'm excited to. And they got to keep. And I don't think they were allowed to trade that one draft pick that they got in the Isaiah Thomas, Chris Paul deal.
No, they can't.
Not Chris Paul, but
no.
Fuck.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Anyway,
okay.
Jay Crowder. But Crowder is gone, all those guys. But Clarkson can score. They got a scorer finally. Mm-hmm. I think Clarkson's gonna slide in nicely. So yeah, they did good, man. They got a bunch of scorers and they got some defense.
And they kept some of their depth. I mean, they still got JR, they still got Korver, they still got Thompson, they still got Love. They'll be fine.
Well, what they did was they created this like situation where there's no longer a log jam. Now it's Clarkson coming off the bench. You know what I mean? He's their sixth man now, and they don't have Wade and Rose and anybody else that wants to pretend Shumpert that wants to pretend that they're the sixth guy. You know what I mean? It's just they're just rotating bodies out of that spot, just hoping to be, hoping they can get some production back from somebody. And defensively, they needed an upgrade. I mean, they couldn't keep giving up 30 points a game. That shit was crazy. So I thought they did well.
I want to point out something hilarious that has nothing to do with the Cavs.
What?
Dude, Elfrid Payton in the NBA tweeted yesterday, "If you ain't good, you gone." And then he got traded today for second round.
Really? Yeah. That's awesome. If you ain't good, you gone. He's like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have talked. No, man, it's DeAndre Jordan getting traded. Everybody thought DeAndre Jordan was gonna get traded, but I guess they needed LA wanted way more than anybody's willing to give up for him. He's a limited player. He's terrible at the line. All he is rebounds and blocks. And then Tyreek Evans was supposed to move for sure, and he didn't go anywhere, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And then who else was supposed to go? Marcus Smart. Boston was looking at getting value for him, but nobody was willing to give up what Boston wanted for him. And yeah, man. And some of the Jazz players didn't go, like Derek Favors and stuff. People were looking at them. But I did guard Magic. The Magic sent Elfrid Payton. He spells his name with an E. But yeah, they sent for a second round pick, and he's a pretty talented dude. He went to the Suns. Suns are trash, but they need, they basically needed a point guard, big time. They've had some issues with injuries, and they dealt Bledsoe, so they don't have him anymore. He's in Milwaukee. But yeah, they didn't get anybody. And it looks like who did a lot of work this trading season is Detroit. Made some moves. They got Blake Griffin and they landed somebody today. Oh yeah, Enos, Tyler Enos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or James Enos.
I actually liked a low key move by the Celtics signing Greg Monroe.
Yeah, I actually didn't even know they got him. I was looking up players today for
pretty recently
for DraftKings and I was like, oh shit, he's on the Celtics now. That was a decent move. He's a kind of an anomaly for me because it seemed like sometimes he'd be super productive. And when he was in Milwaukee, he was pretty productive when they were playing him. And it just seems like you ever have these things where in your head, and this is in any sport, and you see these players that are actually productive on the court or on the field, and you're just kind of like, why don't they play more? You ever wonder like what the coach is seeing and that's different from what you're seeing on TV as to why he doesn't put his seemingly more productive players on the field or court? I always wonder that. Like I never really understood that, or like you see players that are like super productive, and then like they're just minutes fall off, and it just doesn't make sense to me. Like like Greg Monroe was one of them, and then they traded, and then Phoenix trades them, and so you're just like kind of like, what the fuck? He was doing pretty good. For like 3 or 4 games in a row, he was scoring like over 30 fantasy points, and I was like, hell yeah, dude! And like he's cheap as shit, and he's only getting like 18 to 25 minutes, and I'm just like, dude, this dude's way outscoring his minutes per game, and I was like, what the hell is going on with Phoenix? They're terrible as it is. Why aren't they trying something different? And they just kept playing Tyson Chandler. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, man, the NBA is an interesting game, dude. It really is. I don't quite understand how these players don't translate from college to the pros, and some of these guys that you never heard of end up being stars, or at least important role players,
Oh, yeah. A lot of it boils down to luck, injuries, work ethic. Luck is a huge part of it. I mean, I remember watching Greg Oden when I was there, the Thad 5, remember?
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be the fucking God King, And he was. When I watched him play, I mean, he had such a tremendous impact on the game, even with a fucking broken hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so nasty, what he would do to people with blocks and ferocious dunks. Like he just had everything. And then his knee just fucking would not heal. Like he kept tearing his knee, and he never got healthy. He never had a full NBA season. And he got drafted 1. Durant got drafted number 2. I mean, one of the biggest busts ever. And I can tell you right now, watching him play at his physical peak, he was fucking amazing.
No, I don't create busts like in my head of players that are injured. There's nothing you can do about that shit. And even like with Sam Bowie, like the whole Jordan thing, like he was drafted ahead of Jordan. Sam Bowie had a lot of injury problems and stuff. It wasn't his fault. You never know what could have came of Sam Bowie if he would have been able to play healthy and go to the right team. And it is what it is. You never know what Jordan would have became. What if he didn't go to Chicago? What if Jordan went somewhere else and he just did not fit there? He didn't have the Phil Jackson. You know what I mean? He didn't have the right offense to run, and like people didn't believe in him the way that they thought he should. And things happen like that all the time. And it's like right now I've noticed that Michael Beasley is actually doing really well for the Knicks this year, and I thought that he was going to be out of the league because he was doing shitty for the Heat.
Yeah,
when he came out from,
he had to go to rehab.
Remember when he came out? Yeah, remember when he went to Kansas State? He was one of the best players in college.
He was the top recruit.
And he was one of the best college players that I've seen in a long time. Not the best I've ever seen, but he was one of the better ones I've seen. And I just don't think he ever went to the right place. And they never used him right. And now he's kind of like more of a focal point in the Knicks. They need him. And now that Porzingis is out for the year, Beasley's getting a shot, and he's producing. He's producing great numbers, and he's no joke this year. So Beasley's on the rise, and I think it's just all about the right place at the right time, and that's kind of like how we need to go back to like these recruiting rankings and stuff. It's like these recruits, they pick the school that they think's the right fit, but they never know who's going to come in the next recruiting class and take their spot, or even two recruiting classes. There'd be a sophomore in high school right now that's going to take that 5-star job. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to go to the right fit. And a lot of these kids, they don't end up at the right fit right away. They want to go to the NFL, so they get caught up in Ohio State, and they get caught up in Bama and Georgia and all these teams that are just saturated with players, and they all think in their mind that they're a superstar. They're gonna, no matter what, they're gonna be, they're gonna be starting, and it's their spot and all this other shit. And I can't tell you how many 5-stars went to Alabama and died. you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's all the right fit, and that's that. I do want to hit real quick before we stop that Jacob Copeland situation is what I was going to talk to you guys about. His mom had a Bama sweatshirt on and a Tennessee stocking cap on. And she wanted her son to be Bama, but she would have been okay with Tennessee, apparently. When he chose Florida, she literally is sitting next to him on national television and just doesn't say a word to her and gets up and leaves her own son. Walks out on her own son because he didn't pick what she wanted. And I think that's ridiculous, man. That's absolutely fucking bullshit. And I think Fournette's mom, wasn't it Fournette's mom that did that to him when he went to LSU instead of Bama? It might not have been Fournette's mom, might have been another mom. But somebody went to LSU instead of Bama, and his mom fucking lost her shit on the guy on national TV and walked off too. And I just think these parents need to just realize that that's not their life, man. Just because you're a fan of some college team, that's where your son needs to go. It didn't fit him. He wanted to go to Florida because Florida is becoming a big-time passing offense with Mullen. That's what Mullen's – he's a passing guy. He's a guru when it comes to the spread, and Copeland wants to get his numbers up. So he's there. Like, he knows when he goes to Bama, he's going to end up like Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is a hell of a receiver. He may be an amazing receiver in the NFL, but if you look at his stat line at Bama, I mean, he's not even in the top 50 probably in receptions and touchdowns. And, that's because he went to Alabama, where it's been a limited offense. They run first. Even Julio had a pedestrian stat line at Alabama, and look at Julio when he got to the NFL. Everybody knew what he was. But Copeland, he wanted to produce on the field. He wanted to get receptions. He wanted to be the guy. And he felt like he fit there in Florida. And actually, he committed to Florida before McElwain got fired. And then he opened his recruitment back up, and his mom was like hounding him to go to Bama. And I guess just at the end of the day, these parents, they got to realize that you just got to let your kids live their own lives, and you can't treat them like shit and alienate them. He just looks so damn sad on TV that his mom just walked off, and he can barely speak as it is, and he could barely shell out a coherent thought on why his mom left. And they're trying to ask him, like, well, who's that left you? Is she upset that you didn't go to Alabama and all this other shit? I'm just like, leave the kid alone. I just feel bad for these kids that have to deal with that kind of pressure. He's all right.
Your moment,
Yeah, and that's the thing. These parents, man, they think they run these kids' lives, and it's like an extension of themselves, and it's just like, you raised them, you did your part, and now it's time for them to become men. They're leaving high school, they're going to college. This is what they're going to do for the rest of their life. And so, Copeland's probably has aspirations of going to the NFL and shit. So he let him choose where he feels most comfortable to make those strides in life. And that's like, it reminds me of like when my son, he loves to wrestle now. He loves wrestling. Imagine that, right? And I took him towards the end of this wrestling season to Eastwood, where one of my best friends is Ben Lanas. He was a state champ in high school, and I talked to Ben all the time, and I'd take Braxton over and wrestle. He'd always wrestle around with Ben's son Brennan in the living room and stuff there. And I decided, what, Braxton, he's pretty naturally gifted at this stuff. It's like, let's take him there. So I took him to one practice, and he liked it, but my son doesn't pay attention for shit half the time. So he didn't learn very much. So I took him to the wrestling tournament at Eastwood, and he won all 3 of his matches. He was 3-0, first tournament of his entire life. Mm-hmm. And actually, he lost his very last match in overtime. So he went 3-1. He got to wrestle 4 matches that day. And he shouldn't have lost. He lost because when he threw the kid down, instead of taking him down, he literally just let him up instead of keeping him down. He let him up with like 1 second left, and it went to overtime. He lost. But instead of me, you should see these parents there. The whole point of the story is you should see these damn parents there screaming at their kids at the top of their lungs, do it, no, turn him, take him down, what are you doing, blah, 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 just screaming at 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, in these kids, you can tell, like, I have an eye for talent when it comes to wrestling, and you just tell it, like, these kids are just not naturally gifted at this sport, and if they're going to be good at wrestling, they're going to be at they're going to have to be those kids that like work their dicks off. You know what I mean? There's some kids that are just really good. They have that natural feel for wrestling. So they barely have to put in the work compared to like their peers that are just not naturally gifted, and they have to work their ass off to really get to that sport, the highest level of that sport. And these kids are just not that. But their parents are just treating them like complete shit because they're getting taken down and they're 7 years old in a middle school gym. You know what I mean? Like, it just blew my mind. So then I take Braxton to Elmwood wrestling tournament the next week, and he went 1-2. He won one match and lost 2 matches. And instead of screaming at him, I told him how proud I was that he even, gave his effort, and we'll just have to work hard. I didn't give him participation ribbon. I told him, hey man, you lost. This is why you lost. We can work on this. If you want to work on it, do you want to keep wrestling? And he's like, I love wrestling, Dad. I want to keep working. And he even apologized to me for losing. He goes, I'm sorry I lost, Dad. And I told him, I was like, look, buddy, you don't need to be apologizing for losing. I was like, you're 5 years old, man. You have your whole life ahead of you. And I go, if you're ready to be good at this sport, eventually you're going to be good at this sport. It's in your blood. You're an athletic little 5-year-old kid. It'll happen. Daddy's very proud of you. And I think that, that's the way you got to do things. Like, even in high school, man, you just got to let your kids know that you're proud of them and let them know that you care enough about their, growth that you're not going to hinder it by treating them like shit because you want them to be a certain way. And I'm totally against participation ribbons. So I don't want people to tell their kids it's okay to fail all the time. It's okay to tell them that it's okay to lose. Let's find a way to win, right? That's how I am. Braxton, you're 5 years old. It's okay to lose right now. We'll eventually find a way to win, and if you don't want to do it anymore, we'll find something else for you to do that you excel at. And I think that's, positive reinforcement, but with a one-track mind to success. And that's the way that I want to raise my children. I think that's more or less the proper way to do it. I'm not going to tell everybody how to raise their kids, and there's other ways to do it.
I can tell you, I think that's probably the best way to do it, because I was never taught it's okay to lose. So I would get so competitive that I would become like such a fucking obnoxious brat if I was going to lose, because I just didn't know how to deal with losing.
Yeah, man.
Like, all I cared about was winning at everything.
Yeah, well, it was like with baseball. Do you remember when I was on your team when we were like in 4th grade? Remember how terrible I was? I was horrible. I was one of the worst players in the entire team.
Great. You weren't that bad. I mean, you had a lot of speed, and you did a good job. Yeah, but you would make contact. It's not like you went up there and struck out every time.
No, yeah, but I was still pretty shitty. I was that player that rode the pine for the first couple innings, and I finally got in like right field. That was with you. It wasn't, until a few years later that a lot of kids would have quit because I didn't play as much, and all my friends were better than I was. And finally, I was playing, your best friend Reed. I finally got on the Big Orange team with his dad, and I just clicked one year, and I just had an amazing year. And I ended up, moving to third base and catcher, and I was just cranking the fuck out of the ball. I went from like one of the worst hitters, and I started batting cleanup. And just from that year on, dude, I was just a pretty good baseball player. And it was just, things just got to click, man. My parents weren't mean to me about being shitty, and my dad didn't, even my shitty dad didn't freaking be mean to me about it. He just still played catch with me, and still throwing balls to my brother in the yard. And, nobody ever really gave me shit. And wrestling, like, how you remember me in wrestling when we were kids, and I won every fucking tournament I probably ever went to, as a kid. In national scene, going far and stuff, and only losing a few matches here and there. And when I did lose, man, I would cry, and my parents would tell me, stop crying. It's okay. They never gave me shit about losing. They never made me feel like they didn't love me as much because I lost a wrestling match, even though they were used to me winning. And so I grew up like that. So the one thing I wish that I had a little bit more growing up was a little bit more pressure to be better. So I think that's where I was talking earlier about that mixture of, it's always good to let them know it's okay to lose, but still put a little bit of pressure on them to kind of evolve and work harder, and not take it, everything for granted, and not just take the loss and give up. I wish that I had a little bit more shove in the back but I am happy that they didn't make me feel worthless for losing when I did lose. So, it's a catch-22 on that. So if you can find that perfect medium, that perfect medium to push them without making them feel like their life is going to be over if they fail you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And these parents, man, they're just giving up. They're getting up and leaving their kid's side on national television because they didn't make the right choice that they thought was the right choice. That's just petty bullshit, and that can't be a healthy relationship at home,
Oh, I'm totally with you. I mean, who knows what those schools promise those kids too,
Yeah, that's true. Because maybe that some booster at Bama promised mom a new little crib there.
Yeah.
You never know.
They went on a college visit and a recruiter got the kid fucking laid by like 4 whores. He's like, yeah, this is my school. I remember Miami with all like the fucking stripper boats and shit.
Yeah, Vikings had a stripper boat too. That shit, they spent like $80,000 in one night on a stripper yacht.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Miami used like athletic funds to like pay for girls' abortions and shit.
Oh hell yeah! I know that one of the 2 Live Crew rappers was like paying for shit for kids, like to get to go there. Luther something. What the hell's his name? Luther something. He was 2 Live Crew. Pop that pussy, hey, pop that pussy. Yeah.
All
hey,
right.
It looks like there's going to be
off the rails.
Yeah, whatever. Hey, just for our listeners, there's going to be a government shutdown that will begin at midnight tonight because Senator Rand Paul holds up the vote. Awesome. Good job, buddy.
Yep, he's against adding extra spending. He did have. All right, I don't want to get too political, but I'll give him some credit. He had something important to say, that having all this deficit spending, you guys were all against it when Obama was president, but now you don't give a shit as a Republican, when Trump's president. Like, as long as it's your deficit spending. You know what I mean?
No, that's not true. I don't want a bunch of deficit.
Well, that's just what he was saying. That was part of what he was saying.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's against...
man, I'm not saying...
And he wants smaller government in general anyway, but that's the primary reason as a libertarian.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I don't want to get too political either. It's interesting that both parties are kind of cut from the same cloth, you know what I mean? It's very... They're more alike than they think they are.
I will admit that they're more alike. I've noticed a lot more stark differences like in the last few years, but like this, they both have their own overarching goals of spend money for your causes. It's not really about the same ideals.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. So, all right. Well, before we wrap things up, I did have a couple gems that I did promise. So let's get those rolling real quick.
All right.
Wow, winning.
All right. So in today's edition of Hemm's Gems, we are absolutely going to be posting the Isaiah Thomas Cavs tribute video. You will not want to miss this. Let me double check on the length of it. It is only 54 seconds long. It is gold. So please check that out. It will be on the At Odds Facebook page, and I hope that they post it as well on the Belly Up Sports Facebook page, because it is fucking hilarious. And then I'll just give a shout out to the 2 bands I saw headline the last 2 shows I went to in the past week. Starset, I will post a video for their song Monster that was pretty popular right now. And then for Nothing More, they've got a bunch of really big songs out in the past couple years, but I'll post the one from... I'll either post Go to War or maybe Fade In, Fade Out. I don't know. Whatever I'm in the mood for with Nothing More. They have a bunch of really good shit. I will post those three things on our Facebook page for the At Odds podcast. So those are my gems for the week. I'm trying to not get stuck in a rut picking Netflix shows every time. So this time it's music and a hilarious, funny video. So that'll do it for me. It is now, 11:35 p.m. So, let's get to bed.
I'm an old man. Writing some more. I'm gonna go write. I'm gonna finish up some blogging. I wrote a couple of blogs that I just scrapped because I just didn't like them, and I don't know.
I've been there, man.
Yeah, I think I'm at that point where like I like my writing and I want it to be, I want everything to be good. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to throw out some shit.
Don't be too much of a perfectionist, but it's okay to scrap something that you don't think is quality.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna start running them by you and have you edit it and see what you think. I trust your opinion.
Yeah, you can send them my way for me to take a look. I'd be more than happy to share my opinion on some things. I mean, there's different styles for different things. Like I'm not gonna edit it like it's for a newspaper because that's just completely different.
No, just to make sure I'm not overlooking anything.
Yeah.
So
I
thought that.
All right. Well, you guys can check out the At Odds podcast Facebook page, our SoundCloud channel, our YouTube channel, and where do you want them to check out all of our Belly Up Sports stuff?
At Belly Up Sports Twitter, Belly Up Sports Facebook, and bellyupsports.com. We got all our blogs on there. You can click on our newest podcast on SoundCloud up there. We have an odds maker on there that tells you all the odds of all the games that are playing for that day and the scores of the games while they're playing. We have the other Bar Down Radio, which is the hockey podcast that we have from a couple of the other guys on staff, and we got all kinds of shit that's on there, and you can drop in to sign up for a newsletter. So that means like weekly updates of what we got coming up, and you can get our blogs directly emailed to you if you sign up for that. There's a contact us if you're interested in blogging for us, and anything. If you want to contact us for anything at all, go ahead and contact us. So we're good.
Awesome. So that'll do it for today's show. How do you want to roll out? You want to, Rick roll some bitches? You want to bag raiders? Or you want to keep going with some Mech Man?
What do you want to do?
Dude, that Mega Man was so sick. I just want that to be our permanent almost.
Dude, I love Mega Man. What's Mega Man? That's the best video game song ever.
Get Mega Man, bitches.